What's the fastest you've seen someone fired from a job? I worked at a country club that was fairly prestigious where I live. One of the members was Bill Cowher, former coach of the Pittsburgh Steelers and now a studio analyst for CBS. During the summers, Cowher lived in my town and played golf at the club fairly frequently. Well, some kid started on a bright Tuesday morning. We got into work at 6 o'clock, and Cowher rolled in at 8:30 to play a round of golf. He usually played by himself. Really even-keeled guy. This guy sees him and asks, "Hey, is that Cowher?" We all tell him yes, and he raises his voice, just enough to where Cowher could hear him, and goes into a tirade about how much the Steelers suck and how the Ravens, their rivals, are so much better, even bringing up Roethlisberger's transgressions, shall we say. Anyway, the kid also lays into a bunch of personal insults on Cowher. We watched Cowher go into the pro shop of the club. 2 minutes later, one of the top guys of the club walks down and tells the new guy to get the F out. Total time working, about 2 hours and 45 minutes. That kid had some balls. I'm surprised Cowher didn't directly go after him. Cowher was an old school intimidator coach like Parcells who players knew not to fuck with. Too bad he didn't pull a Belichick and just use the power of the dark side to choke the kid. That is so spot on. I can even picture him saying this in a press conference. "I find your lack of faith disturbing." Source: I live in the Boston metro area. About an hour into training, I work with infants at a daycare and I had a new hire that I was training. One of my 4-month-olds had been crying all day and I could tell my trainee was getting fed up with it even though she'd only been in my room for like half an hour around the infant. I was busy changing diapers and making different bottles, and didn't notice that I could no longer hear that baby screaming. I finally realized it when I grabbed his bottle out of the bottle warmer and couldn't find him. I started freaking out and asked the trainee where he was. Turns out, she had just opened the back door, put the baby on the ground outside, and left him out there to get rid of the crying. She begged me not to tell, but you don't just put a baby outside. Right then, one of my directors came by to see how everything was going and I told her what happened. The trainee was fired before she had even officially started working. You don't just put a baby outside. Yep, if anything you just put them in a corner. I am selling weed. No one puts baby in the corner. I worked as a delivery driver for Pizza Hut in college. Basically, anyone who applied and had a driver's license would get hired. So this kid, we'll call him Steve, came in on his first day of work, and this was a transcript of his entire period of employment at Pizza Hut. Steve: "So where is the car I am going to use?" Manager: "You use your own car." Steve: "But I don't have a car." Manager: "Well then you can't be a delivery driver." So on an application or during an interview they don't ask if you have a car? Well, I'm sure they did after that. You kind of bet and doom that someone applying to be a delivery driver has a car. Not always. Some pizza places have company cars. New guy tried to buy some meth from the owner within 2 hours of being hired. He asked another employee and he told him the owner was dealing on the side for extra cash. He started at 8 AM and was fired by 10. Awesome move by the other employee. Definitely, I was the shop supervisor at the time and bought the guy lunch after that. Less than 3 minutes. Worked for a tree service for a few years so I saw a lot of people come and go that couldn't handle it. New guys were always showing up but this 18-year-old never had a job before. Been told he is special all his life and he felt respect was given not earned. This kid never made it to the trucks. We parked our work trucks close to the areas we worked and various parking lots so our personal cars were usually parked close to ensure a spot for the work truck that afternoon. New kid parks right in the middle trying to show he is important. Before he got out the boss set his coffee cup on the kid's back bumper and starts the morning safety meeting. The kid walks around his truck and screams "WHO the yuck put their damn cup on him why truck" and knocks it to the ground. The end. Did he die? He was calmly told he was not welcome there and it was in his best interest to leave. In his best interest to leave. Fix that for you. Had a girl come in for training her first day at the bakery I worked at. Halfway through the shift she takes my co-worker's cell phone, flip phone, out of her bag, looks her in the eye and says "This is nice," and then snapped it clean in half. My boss was in such shock that he didn't even yell, just told her to get out and not come back. Chick wanted to know if she was getting paid too. And then she went off and started her own bakery, Amy's Baking Company. Edit. Thanks for the gold, mate. Edit 2. Here is the episode of Kitchen Nightmares featuring Amy's Baking Company. For anyone who doesn't understand the reference, youtube.com link. Get the yuck out of my restaurant. Meow meow meow. Oh. Shit, it closes the other way. Play it cool. Act like you meant to do that. Boy is this embarrassing. Half an hour. Working in Arby's. New girl shows up. They run her through how to work the cash register on a few dummy orders. She takes a real order or two and then it gets slow. She asks to duck out for a minute to smoke and never came back. Register ended up being $100 short that day. Worked at a mom and pop lobster shack over the summer. One day one of the girls who got hired through a church group left 3 hours early. $1,000 was missing from the register and she was gone for 4 days. Her grandmother came around to the shop the next day asking if we had seen her. Girl shows up a week later, demanding her paycheck. She stole the money, went to the vineyard to booze it with her friend and got some shit or two of a unicorn or some stupid shit. I find that these are the most hilarious comments in this thread. What kind of brain damage do you need to have to steal? And $1,000 no less. Holy crap. And then come back for a paycheck. Dumb thieves never understand. They see that they got some free cash already. Might as well try for a second stab at it. The smart ones wait for the dumb ones to steal $300 out of the register. And then take another $700. And keep working. 6 minutes. Had a friend who worked as a telemarketer and totally blacked out and started yelling at people over the phone. He still lists this job on his resume, like a boss. Telemarketer 9 AM 9:06 AM. Must look good on the CV. Yeah, you know, I really gained a lot of experience. My communication skills scream success. I worked at a pretty big company. I was at work early one morning, around 7:30, trying to get a head start, and I see the new guy, an entry level, super nice dude. He had just started a week or two prior, and he was also in the office early, trying to make a good impression. Anyway, he thought it would be a good idea to start up a fantasy football league in the office, so he sends out an email about fantasy football to everyone. To everyone. The company is a huge, multinational corporation. He sent the email to every single employee, manager, director, VP, COO, etc. But more than that, he sent it to every single distribution list, so people were getting double, triple, quadruple emails. He effectively shut down the entire email system with a failed attempt to increase office MOE. Big boss comes in at 8, closes the door to his office, and sits at the desk. A minute later, I hear what the F. He calls in the noob to his office. By 8:30, the new guy's walking out the door escorted by security. True story. Too long didn't read. New guy accidentally sends an email to the whole company, clogging up the system. Is fired in 1 hour. Edit. Allow me to elaborate. The company I worked for is a pretty big global financial firm. No transactions were done via email, of course, but a lot of information sharing, reporting, publishing was on a pretty set schedule depending on the global markets. Pretty time sensitive. In addition, the fantasy football league required a monetary buy-in. So in addition to clogging up the email system, the new guy was sort of soliciting gambling, which is a no-no, and he used company resources to do it, which is a double no-no. No 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 no. Second edit. I mistakenly a word in the original post. Well, words. Seems like a bad reason to fire someone if they had good intentions and showed a clear weak spot in the IT infrastructure. A good system won't let you send out emails to everyone that easily. Seriously, if anyone should be fired in this story, it's the email admin. I mean, the dipshit was a dipshit, but it shouldn't have been possible to fuck up that badly begin with. That's when the system admin realized he just dodged a bullet and some chap paid for it. About 4 hours. In high school, I worked at an ice cream shop. My boss hired a new girl and said she was going to be working her first shift with me. She came in wearing a black jacket and black pants, which wasn't really the dress code, but whatever. for 4 hours. She would not come out of the corner. I tried to coax her out many times but wouldn't budge. I think they had some other issues. But she started crying, so I gave up and left her alone. My boss awkwardly told her it wasn't going to work out after that. My cat does the same thing when placed in new surroundings. Is it possible your boss hired a cat by accident? Maybe she was staying in the corner because it was really cold. That would not be correct. The corner is 90 degrees. Edit. Someone gave me gold. Thank you so much. Edit number 2. Good lord. More gold? I cannot thank you enough, kind stranger. I've seen people fired faster than this. But the guy who should have been fired fastest was actually fired after 2 weeks. I worked at Starbucks. We hired some weird sketchy kid, 18. But he acted a little like a sociopath and creeped people out. He never laughed, never smiled, never showed any emotion. Wasn't autistic, but I honestly wonder if he was a sociopath of some sort. Someone saw him putting out cigarettes on his arm during one of his breaks, and while I was incredulous about it, I saw the burns on his arm later that week, so they must have come from somewhere. Anyway, first day, he gets trained on some stuff, and then gets trained on register. Most of the time, someone is right next to him, but not the entire time. His till comes up $20 short at the end of his shift. Thebehindum he lost it or rucked up somehow, because he's new. Then, on his next shift, the same thing, again, every shift, over 2 weeks, until they finally said he was no longer allowed to work on the register. His till came out $40 short. This amuses me. I used to work at McDonald's, and there you work on your own till and anything missing comes out of your own pay. It is beyond me as to how some big coffee chains can just operate on one shared till. It is way too easy to steal from it. Edit. Everyone keeps saying it's illegal. Perhaps I was misinformed or misheard. Apologies. Anything missing comes out of your own pay. Solution. Steal your hourly wage from the till and pay $0 taxes on your $0 wage. Internal Revenue Services hate this guy. IDK if this girl was actually fired or if the manager just forget about her, but she applied for a job at a movie theater and got it. She was then never put on the schedule or called to work. She didn't work a single hour. She even tried calling and got no response. That's kinda sad, actually. I can imagine her waiting by the phone, alone in a dark house because she couldn't pay her electric bills, slowly crying herself to sleep because without food she can't stay awake for very long, wondering what she did wrong, why her new boss wouldn't call her back. It wasn't quite so sad. She was in high school and didn't have any real expenses. She just wanted some extra spending money. High schoolers sometimes have to work to help out with their family's expenses. Not saying this is the case, but it happens. I worked for a tech company for a while where the president of the company had previously been the manager of the city's largest strip club. For girls who didn't want to dance anymore, he offered them jobs at our company as lesbian distance, receptionists, and occasional full sales jobs. These girls had about a 50% success rate. Some stayed around for a while, others were fired within a week. And then there was Miranda, who didn't make it a half hour on her first day. She was clearly incompetent from the get-go, arrived late, wouldn't get off of her phone to answer the office line, and in 30 minutes stated, "I'm just not feeling this," 10 times before she asked if she could go home and start the next day. She was allowed to go home, but not asked to return. I'm imagining how terrible I would feel after buying a $50 lap dance from her. $50 lap dance? You need to find a trashier club. I totally read that in Bender's voice. My roommate got a job at a burrito place, left for his first day, and I wished him good luck. I came home later and asked him how it went. He said he got fired. I laughed at him thinking it was a joke. Nope. Apparently he got which day was his first day wrong. He was a whole 2 days late. And this is why I will check the schedule multiple times a day, as well as take photos of it. I was always terrified I'd get the days wrong. One of my friends worked in a newsagent's around the corner from me. He was 16 at the time. In the interview he was asked about weekend hours. As being a student, this was the ideal time for him, and he told them he couldn't work either days because he'd be watching football. They gave him one shift, and not once did he call the manager the right name. They had to take him off stacking shelves because he was making more of a mess than doing his job. And when they asked him to go around the local area with flyers, he gave some 12-year-old kid €5 to do half of them, and then threw the other half in the bin, right in front of his boss. The boss fired him when he turned around and saw him there. The kid earned more money in that shop than he did. I can't believe that people like this actually exist. Just do your goddamn job for Christ's sake. I feel bad cause I'm at work. Edit. To whoever gave me gold. You could not have timed this more perfect. I just got into work and logged in. 10 minutes later. Boom, Reddit gold. Thank you. Delegation. A key skill in management. My old roommate got hired at a country club as a chief. He cooked several meals for them and went through 3 different interviews. They were impressed and told him to be there at 7 AM to prep the next morning. He showed up and they said, "Why are you here? Leave before we call the police. The kitchen is for employees only." He left in shock as the same people that interviewed him told him he was trespassing. Typical white man always kicking out the red man. Chief no cook. Have squaw for cook. Chief only here for interview. Something is missing here. I got a job at a cafe where my buddy's girlfriend had been hired the day before as a manager. I walk in on my first day and she's getting canned. 5 minutes into her shift. The cafe is in a sleepy area of New England where there's a high concentrate of celebrities with homes and vacation homes. One of the first rules was to treat them like you didn't know who they were. They preferred some semblance of anonymity and we were asked by the owner to respect that. My buddy's girlfriend couldn't keep it together when a certain handsome multiple Oscar winner came in that morning and started hyperventilating and seriously putting the spook into this guy. I come in a few minutes later and she's hanging up her apron and wishing me good luck. Multiple Oscar winner. So it's not Leonardo DiCaprio. Got it. Edit. Row. I hadn't even had 100 upvotes total. And then this happens. Thanks guys. Speaking of celebrities, I swear I saw Bruce Willis in an airport one day and he was just staring at me. I looked at him angrily for staring and he laughed and walked away. No one believes me though. I believe you. Airports are filthy with celebrities. Back when I was working for McDonald's, our store was hosting a job fair/hire on the spot sort of event, and they hired a guy on the spot. Then 3 minutes later fired him during the store tour when he dropped a crack pipe out of his pocket and onto the manager's shoe. That was also the last hire on spot done at our store, thankfully, because that always seemed like a really dumb idea. I worked for a major 3-letter computer company. A new service tech was hired. Once he logged in, he pulled out a portable hard drive from his backpack, connected it to his machine, and started to copy everything he had access to. Within 3 hours security was escorting him out the door. I was a game tester for a generic company that handled whatever games needed to be tested by any company that gave us their beta. The new guy was this 40-year-old creeper. We tried to train him how to play the game so he could test it. It was a virtual card game, so understanding how the game was played took some time and understanding. For a whole week he came in and just stared at his screen. Didn't even pick up the controller, write down notes, or do anything. Apparently he had been coming into work stoned out of his mind every day and was too drugged up to do anything. He mysteriously didn't come in on Monday, but we only noticed because the place no longer smelled like smoke, failure, and burning marijuana. Too stoned for video games? That's some next level shit. Yep, but testing video games isn't as fun as playing them. I guess he didn't realize that and thought being high at work was a good thing. Waitress's first job was to take the brand new glasses out of the boxes, put them through the washer, and put them away. She got them all in racks about 10 high on a set of wheels, tried to push them, and they all fell over. The manager said he felt bad, but had to fire her. That is sad. I dropped a $30,000 plastic mold on the ground, bent it, caused a disruption to the production line since it was huge and needed to be removed from the building, put it out of production for a week for repairs, never said sorry, and I still didn't get fired. Never said sorry. Why? Well, saying sorry would imply admitting to fault, so plausible deniability let him keep his job. On a construction site high-rise, you have to be tied off 100% if you walk within 10 feet of the leading edge of the building. zero tolerance. This kid's first day ducks under the rope and walks about a foot away from a 60-foot drop. I yelled at him and pointed at the rope. He says oh, and ducks back under. He was off site 45 minutes later. Total time about 3 hours. Interesting how construction has gotten safer. This kid got fired for being close to a 60 featuring drop, while we have pictures of workers on the Empire State Building eating lunches on girders hundreds of feet up. Liability is a hell of a thing. AKA fun ruiner. During the first week of Air Force basic training, a guy who couldn't have been older than 18 got kicked out of the military altogether because of the results of the drug test he took before being shipped out. Some guys in uniform came to our barracks, made him grab his few belongings, and they took him off. He looked devastated and had tears streaming down his face. Mo of the story: get clean before signing up. A guy who couldn't have been older than 18. Well, he couldn't have been younger either. I guess he was 18. Saw a woman come in for a receptionist job on her first day, about 45 minutes late. We said, apparently, we'd work with her on her schedule because she had a kid. But 45 minutes late on your first day with no call? She was escorted out almost immediately. And sure about this, there are many reasons I would be 1+ hour late with no calls. For example, the subway broke down and I got trapped in a train in the tunnels with no cell phone signal. Imagine the company is beachside in Florida, and come up with one that makes sense. Also, her reason was, well, you guys said you'd be lenient on the schedule. It's your first day. Be on time, no matter what. Once about 45 minutes before a college interview in New York, I was walking to get on the subway and I got mugged. They took my wallet, my phone, my keys, and my shoes. Nobody was home yet, so I couldn't be buzzed in. Luckily, the bellman on duty at the time was a friend of mine. He was the son of one of the families in the building and worked the job during the summer, who let me borrow his shoes and loaned me some money for subway fare. I met the interviewer at the cafe and explained what happened. I was told that there was no excuse and that I could call him later to see if he'd have time, but otherwise I shouldn't be expecting any good reports. I got fired an hour into training to be a busboy at a Boulder Creek steakhouse. I had already bought the uniform and was learning how to properly roll up the silverware and the napkins when the manager came by to let me know that oops, turns out we're not allowed to hire 15-year-olds. Sorry, bye. Those bastards still owe me $5.25. Edit. Row. Reddit. You sure do like the idea of lawyering up and fighting things. For the older people offering me suggestions on how to stick it to these guys. Seriously, it's nothing worth fighting. It was a misunderstanding by the manager. It only really cost me a day's worth of my time, which as a 15-year-old I would have just wasted anyway, and it was a decade ago.